Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From the District with State Senator Suzanne Weber. Senator,
Hello, everyone.
how are you?
Well, let me tell you, this week has been very, very busy, challenging.
Seems
There's
like they're
been
all
a
that
lot
way.
of happening because today was a really important deadline.
Yes, we in the policy world in Oregon call this Black Friday.
Right. St. Patrick has left the building when it comes to the Senate for sure, because if your bill is not scheduled for a hearing or a work session or whatever,
Work session. It's got to be work session.
It's not going anywhere.
Right. So as of now, this is about 8 o'clock on Friday evening. It needs to be scheduled. Any bills that are going to move forward, for the most part, that are in policy committees, they must be scheduled for a work session in the next 4 hours. It didn't have to occur in the next 4 hours, but it must have been scheduled by the next 4 hours. That does not count non-policy committees. So rules committees, revenue committees, the joint committees like transportation, those don't count. But it needs to have had a work session scheduled in its first committee, policy committee. It needs to be scheduled by, this is the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, by 11:59 p.m. And for all intents and purposes, that's already happened. There's not a whole lot of chairs and staff sitting in the Capitol right now on this Friday evening. If it's not scheduled yet, chances are it's not happening.
But let me tell you, there's a whole buzz about this through this whole week, because everybody that felt that their bill was important, and you don't propose something unless you think it's important, has made sure that they have connected with the chair of whatever committee is going to be carrying that bill. And so while we were on the floor, it's the greatest opportunity to be able to talk with people because they're right there. They're the desk behind you. You're the desk right over. And so there's lots of walking around and talking. And you know, the bills are being read automatically by a computer. So you're listening to that, but you're also really focusing on what's going to happen to your bill.
You're not listening. You are not listening. No, nobody's listening to their bills being read.
Nobody is listening to the bill reading.
They've all. I mean, if it's a bill, they've already looked at it. They've at least looked at the summaries. They're not listening to it.
And it was amazing because this week we also had a little tutorial on our etiquette again. When it's 1 minute for this and 2 minutes for this, that's what it is. You're going to get the little ding, 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 and you'd better sit down.
Well, when you've got thousands of bills being introduced, you got to have some rules, or you're going to be there for a while.
And we've got a bill that, well, starting next Tuesday, a bill that's going to take 6 hours to read.
Right.
And so we're going to be in the Capitol on Tuesday night, unless there's some miracle, until after 9 o'clock, because the bill has got to be read, and then we've got to be there to vote. And you've got to be there to vote.
Yep. So that is the deadline. Today is the deadline for the first work session. We've got some more other deadlines that we should talk about. April 4th. A bill must have passed the first chamber. So if it's a Senate bill, if it originated in the Senate, for it to stay alive, it has to pass by April 4th.
Yeah.
And then after that, it goes into the other chamber. So it's a Senate bill, it goes to the House. House bill goes to the Senate. It has to have a work session scheduled. So another day like today, but in the second chamber on May 5th. So this has to be scheduled by May 5th. Doesn't have to happen by May 5th. It just has to be scheduled by May 5th. and then it has to pass the second chamber, or it actually has to actually pass through by the 19th. Actually, the committees end on the 19th.
The committees end then.
Yeah.
And that will ease things up as far as the work that, of deciding these things, but it's not going to ease up the voting, the being on the floor. And that's when we'll probably see a lot of night sessions in addition to what we're seeing.
Right. So that's what kind of freaked me out when I saw night session in March. And oh man, it's gonna be a long 4 more months, because we don't usually go that this early.
Most of the bills have been, this week especially, some of them have taken a minute and a half to read because they're very short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we've had maybe 44 minutes of reading on the floor, but there's all that work that leads up to it. There's courtesies where people stand up and say thank you. This week on the floor, the choir from Willamette University came over and sang for us, which was stunning. Oh, it was stunning. But then there's also the part where you have remonstrances, where if you are really passionate about something or you really don't like something, you can stand up and for 2 minutes you can rail on it. And so everyone has their chance to do that, and we have had a lot of those.
Yeah, you've done a couple.
Yes, I have.
Yep. You got cranky a couple of times, and for good reason. So yeah, those are our deadlines. So the 4th, it's got to get out of the first chamber. The 5th, it needs to have a work session scheduled in the second chamber, and then that work session has to have occurred by the 19th.
Right.
Because that's when the committee is going to be done. Some committees will linger on afterwards to do like informational sessions or something like that, but there'll be no more voting after that.
Right.
In the policy committee.
And the good news is, and you can reaffirm this or affirm this, that I think of all of the bills that I was a chief sponsor on, I think only one of them is not going to be going forward in some form at this point. That's
really impressive. That is true. You did have one bill. Let me pull it up here. That's House Bill 3585. Nope. Yes.
No.
House Bill 3585.
Oh, yeah.
Which would have required the state forester to analyze possible rule changes in terms of the management of state lands. One of the frustrations has been that the state forester not managing lands in a way that, number one, is highest and best use, and also in ways that could prevent wildfires. So this was a bill to instruct the state forester to do that. Unfortunately, that did not move forward.
Right.
But all of your bills have either already had a work session. This is the ones that you've chief sponsored. Already had a work session. Now have a work session scheduled. Have already passed the chamber, or are in one of the non-policy committees like finance, like revenue and rules,
and revenue, transportation, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Joint transportation.
And then, we also did like right at the beginning of the session, we did an episode talking about all the constitutional amendments that you were also sponsoring.
Right.
Those go to a vote of the people. And all of those were in either rules or in finance. So all of them are also still alive. I don't know how far they're going to go in the end of the day, but they're still alive. They could move. So good news on that front. So definitely an awesome achievement, because we're not just talking about 1 or 2 bills. We're talking about 12. And that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work to get that many bills moving forward. And I know folks who introduce 50 bills and they won't get that many move forward. So that's one of the reasons that you don't introduce as many bills as others do, so that you can actually get more moving forward. So congratulations on that. That really is awesome. It's been a lot of work, I know, but definitely congratulations on that. Well, Senator, what else did you do this week?
Well, I had the pleasure last Saturday of being invited to the Tillamook County Creamery Association's annual meeting.
Oh, fun!
And it was really enlightening and really a pleasure to be there and see just how successful our Tillamook County Creamery Association is. And I want to congratulate them for the good work that they have done.
And it finally really happened. Like last year, it was virtual.
Yes, it was.
So this was in person. Back at it.
It was in person. The food was prepared by TCCA. It was wonderful. It was mac and cheese. How can you go wrong with mac and cheese? It was a wonderful evening. It was at the Air Museum, and the only drawback was that it was a little cold in that tent. But it was really nice to be able to see everyone, and the farmers also received all of their awards.
Oh, awesome!
And that was really nice too. And it was, a family event. There were lots of kids there. There was music and fun in addition to just the meeting. There was a great panel discussion on advertising and supply chains, and it was something where you came away with a real sense of pride about where you live, and especially when they told us that one of the facts was that 1 in 4 households in the United States has a Tillamook product in the refrigerator.
Some of us have more than one.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's awesome.
So,
that's really cool.
It was. And then, this week, as fun, the Salvation Army came around and brought us donuts.
Oh.
How special is that? And, the potato is up for the state vegetable. And the potato growers of the state brought us each 4 potatoes and a brush to clean them with.
I remember.
A hat to wear as Oregon potatoes.
I remember, I think it was last year, or maybe even the year before, in the House, Representative Owens had introduced a bill to make the onion the state vegetable.
Oh,
and the State Potato Council came unglued. I think that bill didn't go anywhere. But it was fun to watch.
The joke this week was twice baked.
I guess it's better than half baked.
Yes, right.
Well, those are the fun things. What are the fun things?
Yes, and this week, our kids from FFA are at their convention.
That is right.
And they're doing very well. I'm seeing them posting both from Astoria and Tillamook on Facebook, and they're doing very well. And I plan on giving a courtesy on Monday morning to congratulate them.
That's awesome. Like I said, this is Friday, so we don't know what the results are. Looks like they're going to post the results on Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
So, we'll catch on to those and make sure that a lot of kudos are given, because that is a lot of work. Those kids work so hard at that. And really, really is impressive. Is that it?
Right. But other than that, I had great meetings with people all week long. I have 5 to 7 meetings a day in addition to floor and committee and caucus. And I've met some really inspiring people through this. Learned a lot of facts about things, women in prison, renewable diesel. I mean, all of these things, they come to you and you learn a lot.
Well, that's probably I think the coolest thing in the legislature is being citizen legislators. You don't know everything. You've got your specialty. You're a teacher, and so education very well. You're a small business owner, so economics very well. But recidivism rates of women in prison. How would you know that? The technical working of renewable diesel, how would you know that stuff? So you get to learn so much. And as a staffer, even when I was in the building, just being able to talk to people and just sitting in your meetings, and it was just really fascinating how much you learn.
Yes. So, it is. It really is. You're busy all the time, and you're learning all the time.
Yeah. Well, this coming week.
One thing I forgot to tell you: we had a fire drill.
Oh,
I was taken back to elementary school.
And, yeah, I think I saw that on Twitter.
There was something that actually happened because a fire truck was there. But it was really interesting because we were all pulled out of committee to be able to go and stand in the street. But then when we went back, we all had to go through the metal detectors again. So it took forever to get back into the building and back in operation.
Katie texted me a picture of that, and then I was like, this is a drill, right? Everybody's okay, right? I don't know. I mean, if it was a drill, I'm guessing they would have given some sort of warning that, hey, at some point we're going to do a drill.
Yeah.
Right. So definitely something went wrong, whether it was a mechanical malfunction or maybe there was a kitchen fire in the cafeteria or something. I don't know. But
there were a few minutes where people were saying, "Is this real? Are we really doing this?"
That's kind of the downside of doing fire drills, right? Yeah, you know what you're supposed to do, but you do them so often when you're in that situation that you'd question them whether they're real or not. But yeah. So it was a busy week. It's always a busy week. This coming week is a busy week. Thank you, everyone who did reach out to community chairs and encourage bills to be scheduled. Obviously, very successful. So thank you very much for doing that. So today we're actually going to talk about some testimony that you're going to be giving. Not only do you sit in committees, but when you've got a bill that's coming up that you are sponsoring, that you often come and go to other committees and sit down at the table and testify just like anybody else who signs up. So you've got you've got 3 bills that you're going to be testifying. So let's kind of go through these and chat. First one's SB2 that you are actually sponsoring with Senate President Wagner and Senate Republican leader
Yes.
This is, we talk about tax credits, but this isn't a tax credit. This is a tax deduction for people who are renting rooms in their homes.
Right. So, back in the day, when people came back, when soldiers came back from World War II, people rented out rooms to people in their homes, elderly people. It was a way that they could make a little extra money after being so severely impacted by the war. It gave people a place to live until they could get their feet back under them. This isn't an effort to be able to do that. There is a group that will actually vet the people that can move into your home if you are, so inclined to have someone share a room in your house. But you can charge up to, correct me if I'm wrong, $1,000 a month in rent.
Yes.
And you won't have to pay taxes on that.
Yeah. So you can charge whatever you want. I mean, you can charge $5,000 a month, but you're only going to get the tax credit. I'm sorry, the tax deduction.
Tax
deduction for that first $1,000. So
yes.
Hey, $12,000 tax deduction that could take you into a different tax bracket. So that's big deal.
And my kids did that in California when they were empty nesters. They rented out rooms to college students because it was just so expensive, especially in California, for people to be able to go to school and, as a single person, find a place to live. And you share a space. Sure, you'll probably get to use the kitchen and some other parts of the house, but you'll also be able to reap the benefits of this also.
You know, and this could be, there's a whole bunch of ways you could do this. I could never do this. I'm just, believe it or not, some people don't believe this, I'm an introvert. So I couldn't imagine like renting my house out, this one room out in my house out, because it has to be your house. You can't buy a
your house
and then rent rooms out in that other house. It has to be in your primary residence.
Right.
But if you've got a family member or a friend who needs a place to rent, you can rent them a room in your house, but can also then get a tax deduction. I don't think it has to be a complete stranger. It just needs to be somebody who's paying you rent.
Right. Right.
So, you know.
Yeah, and it's a win-win for both people, really.
Right. And I see a lot, like somebody who's just one person who, you know, I'm not home that much. I work a lot, or I'm a truck driver. So, you know, I only sleep at home, you know, 2 or 3 days out of the month, or hey, you know, I'm actually a pretty social person. I kind of like the idea of sharing a house with somebody. I'm actually seeing, if you go on Facebook, like Facebook Marketplace or any of the real estate pages on Facebook, you actually see a lot these days with people renting out rooms or asking to rent out a room in a house, just because it's just so bloody expensive to rent anymore. And that's just, you know, the nature of things. As the costs of houses go up, people they're going to rent those houses. They're going to want to cover their mortgage. So not a surprise that rents go up, but people still need a place to lay their head at night.
Right. And if they have people living in their house, that is income. And it needs to be declared as income.
Right.
So this makes it all right for them to collect that and not have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, you know, it could also be a way to make people honest, right? I mean,
well, that's
people already doing this who might not be claiming every penny that's coming their way. So this might be an opportunity to do that. And we've talked about this quite a bit, Suzanne. Oregon has one of the highest marginal income tax rates in the country.
Oh, yes, so, I was just reading more facts on that this week, and I was shocked at how high our income tax is. And you know, I always thought that Minnesota had high income tax. Well, they're right close to Oregon too.
Right.
But I would. So, you know, it really isn't all that great of a state to be able to rent in, to start out in, or to retire in a lot of aspects.
But tax deductions in Oregon, especially, income tax deductions are a big deal, because when you're having a tax rate of 10%, that's a lot of money. So raising the amount of money that you got in your pocket by 10% is a big deal. So that's SB2. Anything else you want to say about SB2?
No, except that I am hoping that it's going to be able to move forward, because, you know, we have a lot of housing problems, the ability to build housing, especially on the coast, and it would be able to open up another avenue for a lot of people who live on the coast, to be able to have a service job and be able to afford to have a place to live.
Yeah. So
because you know how hard it is for us to get employees, especially in the summertime, and have a place for them to live.
Well, the next bill kind of is along the same lines in SB 406. And what this bill would do is actually just insert Tillamook County, cities in Tillamook County, into a program, a bill, two bills actually that were passed in the 2019 session before you were there.
Right.
And it would do two things. One, it would make it so that if somebody wants to build up to a fourplex on their piece of property, they could do so. You know, right now you have a single family, so you could only build one house. And so you've got a lot that certainly could handle a fourplex.
Right.
But
and
you don't
to remember that a lot of bills have numbers in them that are population requirements to be able to, like 4,000 people or 6,000 people or whatever. This is to make a bill that has those numbers in it that make it impossible for Tillamook to be able to accomplish this. It makes it so that we can actually be able to do it.
Right. So if you were under 10,000, if your city was under 10,000, you were not participating in this.
You couldn't participate in this but now with Tillamook County being in there, we'll be able to participate in that.
Right. Yeah. So that was actually what was called House Bill 2001 in 2019. There was a partner bill of House Bill 2003 that attached funding in order to be able to do some of this work. And so this would also allow for Tillamook County to engage in possibly some of this funding.
Yes.
So I think that's also big. And I think this is a pilot project. The original bill only had municipalities. It didn't have an entire county. So this is, I think,
this is a forward-looking step to be able to accomplish of what we have with our housing needs, especially.
It is, and I look at when we're looking at some of our friends who you also represent in Washington County and in Multnomah County, they have more land that they can expand to. If their governing boards were to expand the urban growth boundary and open up more land to actually build, they could do that. In Tillamook County, you can't do that because you can't build too far one way because you got a bunch of mountains, and you can't build on the side of the mountains, and you can't go the other way or you get wet. So you only got so much finite land in Tillamook County. So this is going to allow you to be building more multifamily. No, it doesn't require. It's important to say it just you do not have to knock down a single family house that you have on your lot, and you have to go build a fourplex. It doesn't do that. It allows you. It allows you to do that if you wish. It will also allow for municipalities to put boundaries on this. It's going to they can require parking requirements, or it can require sewer requirements. It's not not a totally unvetted plan.
Right.
Am I frozen?
Okay.
There I am.
You froze for a second, and I'm sure it was the most profound observation of the night.
Yeah.
But
I was looking at myself, and I wasn't moving. And I didn't know if I had a stroke or what was going on, but that's going to happen eventually, I'm sure. So that's SB 406. So you got two really big housing bills to try to increase housing stock and rental stock. I think big things there.
Well, it's a common sense approach that's going to apply to our rural Northwest Oregon area. Right.
Absolutely. But you do have one more bill that's going to be testifying that isn't housing related, but I think really is serious but important. HB 3584, which would direct school districts that if there is a dangerous situation, so a lockdown likely,
yes,
to inform parents in a digital way. So texting quite honestly is probably the way. Tell us about this.
That's what I think. Ricky Ruiz, who is a Senate representative, not Senate, a House representative. He and I have worked together on disparities in housing before and some other issues. And he came to me and said that he was really concerned about the fact that, these lockdowns were occurring more and more frequently, and parents were getting to school and not knowing that this had happened. And would I be interested in going in with him to put forward a bill that would require that? And I had been talking to another legislator about something very similar to that. And it just seemed like a good idea, since Representative Ruiz was on the right track, to be able to co-sponsor that with him and move it forward.
And it is, I'm trying to bring up the exact page here. Forgive me.
And the wording in the bill is very simple and very straightforward and very clear.
Right. You know, when we have a snow day or something like that, I get a text message. I mean, it seems like the infrastructure is already there, right?
Right.
For most places, that's the case, at least. And I think it's probably nothing much more scary than just reading on Twitter or on social media that at the local newspapers page that, oh, there's a lockdown at your kid's school.
Right. And, you know, there are some challenges to this because we have a lot of small school districts who this might be a problem for them, but I'm hoping that it will be able to be resolved, because I think that basically it's all encompassing the things that parents need to know, and it's at a very important time.
Right. So this I think it's really important to take a look at who the sponsors are. Certainly, Representative Ruiz, definitely one of the more liberal members of the House. Yourself, Senator Dembro, again, one of the more liberal members of the Senate. Representative Kate and Representative Morgan, probably two of the more conservative members of the House. Yes. This is not a partisan bill. This is common sense, just like the other two. This is a common sense bill that is going to help make people's lives better. So definitely a win there. So there was a bill that you testified this last week. That is not a common sense bill. That was unfortunately made it to Suzanne's bad bill list in Senate Bill 85. And
yes, and that's going to be moving forward, unfortunately. It was one of those bills that I not only testified against, but I also gave a remonstrance against, because of how this could quite potentially affect our TCCA that I just talked to you about me being so proud of.
Right. So this is going to limit CAFO permits. For those folks who
CAFO is confined agriculture feeding operations.
Right.
And so, you know, there aren't that many of those for dairy in the state. But, you know, we have the preponderance of cows and the preponderance of farms in our district. And so there is the potential in that bill to be very harmful to growth in our area. Yeah, we've only got so much land, and we've only got, you know, so much feed, and we have the challenges of getting feed in here and milk out and cheese out and that sort of thing. But I hate to see us limited by something that was originally hopefully to limit chickens by a certain group of people.
Right.
You know, I don't know if I explained that clearly enough, but that's where it started with chickens.
It started with chickens. Yeah, I don't think it was intended to hit cows so much, but it did include it. Yeah. And, you know, the number of cows hasn't gone up much, but the number of farms keeps shrinking.
Right.
So those farmers have to transfer those permits, and I don't know that that's even guaranteed. So it becomes quite difficult when those when there's limits on the number of CAFO permits and the number of animals that you can have, period. Right. Because what happens if we end up shrinking farms into even fewer? Are we just going to stop? Are we going to make less? Because if there's a demand,
in order to
make less, it's going to come from somewhere.
In order to guarantee production, and to be able to support the families, the employees that are here, that are, so integral to this industry, we will have to get milk from out of state.
Wow.
And then once again, people are so worried about this carbon footprint that we're leaving. Well, if we're once again hauling things on the highway,
using diesel,
it doesn't make any sense.
Right. And I don't think there's any farm, at least not in farms in Oregon, probably further away, that are more sustainable than TCCA farms.
I agree.
I mean, TCCA is an incredibly environmentally friendly organization. They take carbon reduction very seriously.
Right.
There are a lot of farms in a lot of states that's not the case.
In fact, I talked with a farmer in the last, today and then earlier this week, who is testing out an electric tractor. Now, that's quite a concept here. At the time that he was telling me about it, he couldn't get it to go slow enough to do what he wanted it to do, but he still thought it was a brilliant idea. And then, we also have the opportunity within the next couple of years to have renewable diesel. Mm-hmm. And so that can also make our farming easier, because we're going to have a cleaner product to be able to burn. And so to be able to limit the number of cows that we have just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It really is. So this is Senate Bill 85, folks. Again, Senate Bill 85. Unfortunately, it did get a work session scheduled. So It is moving forward in the Senate Committee on Natural Resources. So what can you do? What can you do to stop this? Need you to please reach out to the entire committee. There's only 5, so it's a Senate committee. There tend to be smaller. So that's Senator Jeff Golden, Senator Fred Girod, Senator Floyd Przansky, Senator David Brock Smith, and Senator Kathleen Taylor. And if you just go onto olis.oregonlegislature.gov and click committees, and then under committees, click Senate, look for Senate Committee on Natural Resources, and you'll see the entire list of folks, of the senators who reach out to and ask them, please, to, if it comes up for a hearing, for a vote, to vote no on Senate Bill 85. Best way to stop a bill, best chance of stopping a bill is to stop it in committee.
Yes,
you really only have to turn one or two, usually only one vote to stop a bill. So if you can convince, technically, you're an independent-minded senator, but I would say if you could, folks, turn one of our Democratic friends on that committee to vote no, I think we've got a good chance on stopping that bill.
Yes, and the preponderance of testimony was negative toward this concept. They had 3 separate hearing times, and I know at one point, one of the hearings, the one that I testified at, there were 120 people that were in line to be able to give their opinion.
Yep. So Senate Bill 85, everybody. Please reach out to those senators. You can reach out to any senator, but really those 5 senators are going to decide on whether this bill moves forward. Really, really important that we do our best to stop this bill. Senator, anything else? Anything fun?
No, I think that we're just going to get ready for another busy week, because, not only are we going long on Tuesday, but we're starting early on Thursday, because we have another opportunity, and I don't remember what the subject is, early on Thursday morning, to be able to learn more about one of the industries that's going forward. We have been learning about transportation, and we've been learning about semiconductors, and we've been learning about housing. And we just continue to have more meetings early in the morning to be able to discuss these things.
Yeah. Some big bills coming up. I know we're going to need to talk about it. You know, bring that semiconductor bill. We need to chat about that. We should probably talk about that here in the next week or two.
We're going to have to talk about semiconductors, and we're also going to have to talk about the homeless bill.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you know, I was worried that we were going to get bored and have nothing to talk to each other about.
Oh, Adam, that'll never happen.
No, well,
no.
One of us will die, and then we'll stop the conversation. Closer every day, Senator. Huh? What did I miss?
I just said thank you. I appreciate your being able to do this with me. I think we have wonderful conversations, and I think that we're being really helpful because I think there's a lot to learn about lawmaking in Oregon.
Yeah, I know people are listening because we get Katie tells me we get emails yelling at us. So if they're cranky with what we say, it means they're listening.
They're listening, right? And if they have, if there is a preponderance of evidence from my constituents on how they feel I should vote, I will definitely take their advice.
Yep, that definitely comes up in the meetings. The senator will say, what do constituents say? And there'll be a quick search. Well, we've got 200 emails saying yes on this one and 50 emails saying no on this one. And that really does sway your decisions. So
right.
It really matters if you're a constituent. I would say there are some organizations who just flat out spam legislators. You know, if you are a constituent, that's great, but or if there's a particular bill in committee that you are writing specific testimony or concern about, but when we get 1,000 emails that say literally word for word the exact same thing,
please don't do that.
Well, honestly, they go in. We've got an Outlook rule that it goes right into the Outlook, and we look at one or two of them to make sure it's all the same. But then it's not.
Here's the other.
It's not effective. Write your own test. Write your own concerns and comments. Send them in. That's effective.
Here's the other thing. Where are you coming from? Don't say, you know, my name is Mary. Mary who? From where? Are you one of my constituents? Am I representing you?
Right.
Because that's what my focus has to be, is what the people who live in my district think.
Right. So please.
Because they're the ones that know the impacts of how these things are going to affect them. Right.
I think it's important I know you also consider emails from anybody in terms of committee bills. And things like that. I think what is not effective is being part of these blast emails. You don't know if they're from your district. Yet you don't know even what their names are. The email they sent is exactly word for word what 900 other people said. That's just, and especially when the blast email is just inaccurate with what it says. That's always it's just not effective. Really, folks, I'm not trying to be
I'm not trying to be
rude
negative
or
about it.
negative. If you want to actually be effective in changing Senator Weber or Representative Javity or anybody's minds, send an email with your own thoughts, signed with your own name, and ideally with an address that says that you're a constituent. Or if you're not a constituent, why you are writing to this particular senator. If Senator Weber's on the education committee, you're writing on an education bill that she's going to vote on, sure, that makes sense. But if she's not, it's on a bill that she's not going to even look at until it comes to the floor, and you're not a constituent, and it's an email that 900 people have the exact same thing, and you send it with your first name, and that's it. It's just not effective. Don't waste your time. It's just not effective. Write something yourself. Write something yourself. So, thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
That was very good. Thank you.
Anytime. All right, Senator. Well, we've got enjoy your weekend, and you got a busy week ahead of you. And thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
All righty. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.